According to an FBI investigation, a hospice owner in Frisco, Texas had allegedly ordered nurses to administer fatal doses of morphine and other medications so that they would die faster as a matter of business. So this guy's name is Brad Harris. He founded Novus Healthcare Services Incorporated in July of 2012, and he's actually not a medical doctor of any kind. He's an accountant. So back in October of 2014, the original FBI investigation started as a result of healthcare fraud. Allegedly, Harris would personally choose who would receive hospice care and who would receive home service or home health care, and then he would charge the government for medically unnecessary procedures. So just to give you an idea of how hospices work as well, they do have an aggregate cap, which basically means that it limits the amount of Medicare and Medicaid payments based on the yearly average that a hospice patient stays. So the idea is if a person stays longer, the hospice owner is not necessarily getting more money. So it seems like it's kind of a setup for something sinister like this. However, just to give you an idea, the amount that this aggregate cap is about $23,000 per patient. So even though it might seem like it's putting pressure on the hospice owner, it still seems ridiculous. So basically what happened is that he would then, as I said, he would decide who came into hospice care, and then he would say, oh, okay, you guys have stayed here too long, so then he'd send the patients back home and then bring them back and forth regardless of what their needs were. It became even more sinister, as we've seen in some of the FBI affidavits for a search warrant. He would basically direct nurses to overdose patients, giving them 4 times the amount of morphine. In the documents, it was found that he would say things like, if this fuck would die, he would say, he would try to find patients who would die within 24 hours, et cetera, et cetera. What do you think? This sounds pretty insane, doesn't it?
You know, when we first talked about this, Medicare fraud is common among, I mean, that's something that you would sort of expect, the overbilling aspect, because, you know, it's really up to the clinic to bill Medicare and Medicaid, and then they come back with an adjusted amount that they pay. Mm-hmm. This, though, I mean, from the way that I'm understanding the story, this psychopath has decided to bump off patients playing God, mm-hmm. just to turn over beds more quickly. Palliative care, as we know, it's just a place for people that are dying to go to be comfortable while they transition. It's not a place of facilitated care per se. So the fact that he was overdosing patients to get them to die more quickly, would the motivation be to have the bed to be able to put another person in it?
Basically, yeah. So the incentive is that, you know, you want to have people whose stays are going to be shorter, but you're talking about people's lives, you know. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a lot of criticism of the healthcare industry because a lot of it is about making money. This guy, though, goes so much farther. I mean, you kind of think back to the days when, you know, people would be denied health coverage because of a pre-existing condition. I mean, that's all been done away with Obamacare. But this guy, like I said, he's not a medical doctor. He's a businessman, basically. He opened up this service being like, how can I monetize this?
Palliative care, you would think that would be run by very compassionate people who understand the process. Like at that period in life, you need the most compassion. You know, you're in a place where you're near death, and for somebody to be standing on the cliff with you and just bump you off of it, well, just wow.
And talking about compassion, he would send text messages to nurses and employees saying things like, "You need to make this patient go bye-bye." I mean, you know, it's like so flippant, so blasé about it.
Right.
Incidentally, when the raid of the FBI took place shortly after a lot of his employees were leaving, different physicians and people working for him would leave, and then he started suing these employees under the guise of basically a no compete clause if they started to work for different companies. So as of this point, the FBI is not making any further comments. Harris himself has not made any comments, and no charges have actually been made against him.
Oh, wow.
So I will be very interested to see how this pans out, and certainly I hope justice will be served for Brad Harris, aka Dr. Death.